What's up? I'm Pip, and this is Brewing on a Budget. Today's deck is an IZZET value deck starring Lilah, undefeated slick shot, coming in at a silky $64. So, what it do? This deck is an ode to the art of dirt. A delicate dance of value and tempo that will leave your opponents scratching their heads and wondering if they should kill you before your mysterious maneuvers bear fruit. We have dozens of small pieces that should add up to one interesting and consistent puzzle to solve. Our commander Lilah, undefeated slickshot, will allow us to plot every multicolor instant or sorcery that resolves that we've cast from our hand. For those of you that don't know, plotting just means you set it aside in exile and you can cast it for free on a later turn. You'll be able to do this and cast the spell naturally, which means we're gonna double dip on just about everything we do. More importantly, we can build up a backlog of spells we let fly on any of our future turns. This synergizes beautifully with prowess and our other on-cast triggers, allowing for potent and interchangeable combos. With our arsenal of on-cast triggers in the form of token generators, card draw, and direct damage, we'll steadily build value and the board as we continue banking plotted options on board and maintaining a full grip. To make this deck shine, we need access to plenty of cheap spells and a reliable mana base. That's why we've included various hand smoothing tools, tons of 2-mana rocks, and ample card draw. But wait, there's more! Counter spells and strategic board wipes are on standby to foil our opponent's plans and maintain control when things get a little chaotic. This deck offers consistency, but it requires a wrinkled brain to navigate its convoluted lines to victory. Well, is it your cup of tea? Let's dive in. If you're itching to see the entire deck list, saunter on down to the description and give that link a click. Lilah, undefeated slick shot. Alright, so our commander is a 3/3 for 3 with prowess, and whenever we cast a multicolored instant or sorcery, which we have quite a few of, we're going to exile that spell instead of putting it into our graveyard. And it's going to become plotted. Plotted means it hangs around in exile and we can cast it on one of our other turns for free at sorcery speed. Now, we're going to be taking advantage of that in a number of different ways. We have a bunch of on-cast triggers, whether it's drawing cards, dealing damage, or creating tokens. So let's start off by taking a look at a few of the multicolored spells we're going to be using for this strategy. Practical Research. This one's going to draw us 4 cards, then discard 2 cards unless we discard an instant or a sorcery, which we have a ton of. So we're going to have options here about what we want to do. And next turn we could do it too if we need to. Firemind's Foresight. This one's pretty pricey, but it's going to draw us 3 cards of our choice. Steam Augury. More card draw, but this one is going to be a Factor Fiction style. Rouse Outburst. This is going to deal 3 damage to any target, and we're going to look at the top 2 cards and put one into our hand. Some more card draw with a little bit of damage tacked on. Prismari Command. This is going to give us some options to deal 2 damage to any target, draw 2 cards, discard 2, create a treasure, or destroy an artifact. Electrolyze. This is one of the nicer ones. This is going to deal 2 damage divided any way we like, and we're going to draw a card for just 3 mana. Teach by Example. Whenever you cast your next instant or sorcery of the spell, copy that spell. You may choose a new target. Does anyone like triple dipping? IZZET Charm. Here's a nice little mana leak effect, some damage, or some card draw. Whatever you need at the time. Galvanic Iteration. This card's very similar to Teach by Example, but we can cast it again once it goes to our graveyard. Arcane Infusion. Some more cheap card draw and flashback if we need it. Master the Way. Here's where we get into some of the more unique effects. Draw a card, Master the Way deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of cards in your hand. I don't know if you've seen all the card draw we're packing, but this should be 7 at most times, sometimes even more. First off, we're playing a number of cards that remove the cap to our hand size, and also we can bank all of these card draw spells for 1 turn, draw 25 cards, deal 25 damage. Truth or Consequences. I like these vote cards. I think they make for fun interactive games. Either you're going to draw a handful of cards, or you're gonna lightning bolt a random player. Ill-Timed Explosion. This one gives us some optionality. You don't have to discard the cards if you don't want to, and if you do, you get a nice little board wipe. Experimental Overload. This is gonna create an XX blue and red creature equal to the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard. Then you can get 1 back from your graveyard and put it into your hand. You're gonna have to be pretty smart about how you sequence this spell. we're going to be plotting most of the cards that we have, so you're going to want to have this go off after everything hits your graveyard for real. Stitch in Time. Now, I don't think this card is very good, but if you get to do it twice, that's better than 50-50. Role Reversal. We're going to be generating quite a few tokens, and I wouldn't mind trading one of those for somebody's best creature. Gandalf's Sanction. This is another one where we're going to have to be careful about how we sequence it. It should be a great finisher later in the game. Fell Beast's Shriek. Each opponent chooses a creature they control, tap and goad the chosen creature. And you can splice this onto any instant or sorcery. Which means for 4 mana, you can do this over and over and over. This should help to protect us from whoever the aggressor is at the table, and buy us some extra time later in the game. Expressive Iteration. Some good card draw and card selection. Can't get too much of that, especially when we get to do it twice. So that's it for the multicolor spells in our deck. Like you've seen, there's not a whole lot of variance in what they do, but they're going to give us a ton of consistency for some of the other cards. And we're going to leverage those extra casts with triggers from our creatures. Let's take a look at a few of those creatures now. Alright, I'm going to hit pause real quick just to ask you to smash that like and subscribe button. Looking at the data over on my supercomputer, I can see that only 1% of you nerds who watch my videos are subscribed. Now, I'm gonna have to sell my kidneys if I don't get about, 32% of you guys to subscribe to my channel. Alright, back to the video. Vika, Enigma Goliath. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we're gonna create that many hasty 1/1 red goblins. That includes plotted spells. Melek, IZZET Paragon. He's a little pricey to cast, but he's gonna let us rip through our deck, especially some of those cheaper spells. Najal, the Storm Runner. This is going to let us cast our sorceries at instant speed, and whenever he attacks we can pay 2 to copy our next spell, which does include our plotted spells. Talran, Sky Summoner. Some of you might be familiar with this card, because there's a whole deck archetype surrounding it. But here we're just using it to create a few more tokens, either for defensive blockers, or to go wide and try and kill somebody. Niblis of Frost. 3/3 Prowess Flyer for 4, and whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we can tap down somebody's creature for 2 turns. This should help us close out the game. Murmuring Mystic. This dude's an absolute legend in Pauper. He's not too shabby here either. Gutter Snipe. Here's one of our payoffs we can save up a bunch of our plotted cards for. Have them go off all in one turn to eke out that last bit of damage. Gale, Waterdeep Prodigy. Here's some more recursion for spells we've already cast. I know we have a ton of low impact spells in our deck, but if we're casting them 2, 3, 4 times a game, they end up being pretty good. Baral and Karizev. So this one will trigger our commander on both casts, which is pretty sweet. Or we can make a little monkey. Young Pyromancer. Here's a cheap on-cast trigger that's just going to help us go a little wider. Whether it's for offense or defense, we'll just figure that out later. Third Path Iconoclast. Same as Young Pyromancer, but this is going to trigger on more casts. Storm Chaser Mage. 1/3 Flying Haste with Prowess. Tried to make most of our Prowess creatures haste, so that we can hold on to them and slam them all in the same turn. I wouldn't run these guys out early unless I absolutely needed to. Kenra Spell Spear. I know I just said I wouldn't cast our Prowess creatures early, but this one you do want to give enough time to flip over, because on the other side, we'll be getting Prowess, and Trample, which can add up pretty darn quickly. Goblin Electromancer. This guy's just going to help us bomb it out our hand much quicker. Fugitive Codebreaker. Most of the time you're going to be casting this guy face up, but if for whatever reason we need to refill our hand, he can do it for us. Baral, Chief of Compliance. This is going to make our instants and sorceries cheaper, and draw us a few cards. Balmor, Battle Mage Captain. This guy's here mostly just to synergize with our other token generators. It's an alternate win condition for us with all the plotted spells we have stacked up. Monastery Swift Spear. What can you really say about this card? Haste and Prowess. Blasphemous Act. This is just in case we get a little too far behind on the board. Spreading Insurrection. This is a fun one, and I hope to win a number of games with this one alone. We're going to gain control of target creature you don't control until end of turn. We're going to untap it and it's going to get haste. Stack up those plotted spells. Cast 4 or 5 of them in a turn. Turn our opponent's creatures right around on them. Preordain. We have a handful of these 1 mana hand-fixing card draw cards. Brainstorm, Consider, and Opt. We're also playing a couple counter spells just in case. Counterspell, Negate, and Rewind. We don't really have any options for dealing with certain types of permanents, So I'm adding Chaos Warp in here just in case we need to. Hold on to it though until it's something really impactful. Arcane Bombardment. This is going to be one of the most powerful cards in this deck. We're going to be able to control a little easier what cards are going to our graveyard. So the random element of this is not going to be that hard for us to manipulate. Whew. Just think about the value we're going to get off this one. Fiery Inscription. The ring tempt is kind of irrelevant here. The second bit of text is pretty nice. This is a gutter snipe ability on an enchantment. I'm going to try out one of the new cases. This one's going to reduce the cost of our instants and sorceries, and then we're going to have to cast 4 in a turn to flip it, which shouldn't be that hard when we're plotting spells. And then every instant and sorcery we cast after that is going to replace itself? Sign me up. Alright, let's talk about mana rocks. I'm sticking almost exclusively to 2 mana rocks, just to ensure they're not competing with casting our commander. Kicking it off, we have Soul Ring, followed by Wayfarer's Bauble, Belwar Stone, Fire Diamond, IZZET Signet, Obsidian Obelisk, Sky Diamond, Star Compass, Talisman of Creativity, Thought Vessel, and Decanter of Endless Water. Now onto the land. And I'm not going to spend too much time on the land, it's pretty basic. I'm going to point out the ones with cool utility effects, and the others I'm kind of going to speed through. It doesn't matter too much which ones you choose here, as long as we have the right amount of duels. Castle Vantress. This should come into play untapped most of the time with the amount of basics we have. It's just something to do if we run out of cards, which is pretty bloody unlikely. Desolate Lighthouse. Same thing here, this is just going to be something to do if we run out of cards. Rivendell! This is another scry land that should be cheaper to activate. We have enough legendary creatures here, I don't think it should be much of an issue. Mystic Sanctuary. This is going to allow us to put an instant or sorcery on top of our deck in case we really need that card. Alamar Depths. Alamar Depths. Have a brainstorm on a land that comes into play tap? Can't complain about that. Reliquary Tower. With all the cards we're drawing, I think we can afford to run this card. Exotic Orchard. Most tables have blue and red at them, so I'm going to imagine this is going to be an untapped duel most of the time. Most of the duels here are interchangeable. I recommend getting as many untapped ones as you can, but use what you have. Ferris Lake, Frostboil Snarl, Shivan Reef, Sulphur Falls, Temple of Epiphany. So that's the deck. Did you like it? Am I an idiot? Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you in the next one.